Let's talk.
And it is that time where we go to Myra Azzopardi of the Citizens Advice Bureau of Spain for any questions you may have about working your way through the paperwork, the bureaucracy, and the general getting on with life. Myra, can I just say happy Valentine's Day to you?
Thank you. Lovely.
Have you and all
the same to you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the cat said hello this morning. Or it might have just been feed me, but they have you had trouble obviously doing your work with obviously the hard-working staff at the Citizens Advice Bureau of Spain having to deal with all the Valentine's thank yous and everything like that?
Absolutely none.
Right. Well, let's do our own little love letter then, because last time we hit on something really, really important, which was the whole thing about staying in Spain and periods allowed, and also you explain a little further about what we're talking about today then.
Okay, so we can look at permitted absences for either temporary residents. Now we talk about non-EU and EU citizens and those under, the withdrawal agreement, slightly different. So it's 3 scenarios, but I'll try and keep it simple.
Okay.
So I think we know that a temporary resident of Spain, both EU, non-EU, and under the withdrawal agreement, absences for temporary residents in any year period should only be 6 months, no more than 6 months. Okay, that's for the first 5 years. Go out of Spain, be absent, unless you're not affected if you have longer absence for compulsory military service. There are youngsters here that have been living in Spain and might have taken Spanish nationality.
Right.
This would be compulsive military service of your country, one absence of 12 consecutive months for important reasons such as pregnancy, childbirth, serious illness, study or vocational training, or a posting to another country. That can be by company. Okay, so that... And without, for both, we're talking about for everybody that's a temporary resident, EU, non-EU, and British nationals under the withdrawal agreement, temporary residents, it's 6 months. Of course, I'll very quickly bring up that the Supreme Tribunal last year, sometime a year before, I have got the article that I've written, declared as null and void the particular article in the Spanish royal decree that extinguishes the right of residency.
Right.
So there's just been a precedent set, so you could argue the fact if you're told at the moment, because Spain still has not changed that in the law. They haven't put it into the correct law to be legal. It's still in the incorrect law. Let me just put it like that.
Okay. So
at the moment, you could challenge that because people are being refused residency because of absences. I've had that, and I've had to explain, I think, to a foreigner's office that they were entitled to have been absent. This was not this. They were not absent. They had not exceeded their permitted time allowed, but sometimes foreigners' office don't know. So
if you've got temporary, so if you've got a 5-year or a 10-year temporary residency, you
won't have a 10-year temporary resident. You'd be a permanent, and after 5 years, you're permanent. So it's those that are under 5 years, up to 5 years. So I'll let you carry on with your question.
Well, no, that was just the thing. So, for example, your company you've come over to work for a Spanish company, and then after a year, perhaps they said, okay, we're going to send you to Mexico or Venezuela or something like that, and you're going to have a 2-year contract. Say you've got your family, the kids are at school here. That you are allowed to have that period away, and it won't count as you.
Well, they don't actually say how long.
Right.
Posting to another country. They don't actually say how long. They do say, they talk about, they do, 12 consecutive months for posting to another country. So I don't think you could go for 2 years.
Right, okay. Okay, so but that's an interesting one. But just repeat what you said about this article and this change hasn't been. It's not in a BOE. It's not in a bulletin de estado, so it's still in limbo.
Yes, it's still in limbo. It still means that there is no actual law that states that you cannot be absent from Spain for more than 6 months. So you could be absent for any length of time because it's not in the article they've used is not in the correct law, basically. So it's null and void. Put it that way. That is null and void. It doesn't mean now that you can just be absent for more than 6 months, come back and argue that it's null and void.
Yeah.
That's just set a precedent
Okay.
because you're still being constricted by the ruling that they're using. So that's just set a precedent until the government either agrees that that's wrong, but if anything, when they actually get round to it, they'd more than likely put it in the correct law, so you can only be absent for less than 6 months in any year period.
Presumably, then, if you are going away, these are two hypothetical things that have just struck me, Myra. So bear with me, and I'm throwing a curveball. Yeah. One is a medical one. For example, if you're in Spain and you're here on the temporary thing, and you go away and you discover that you are pregnant. And you are not allowed to travel because I know women who have had to stay in bed for periods of sort of 7 months or something like that. Presumably that there would be some sort of medical exemption in this sort of case.
This is if they're absent, yes?
Yeah. So you've not in Spain. You've got your temporary Spanish residency, whatever. You've gone away, and by some, again, this is just by some horrendous thing, you find out that you are, being blessed with the light or whatever, and then they say, but unfortunately, due to medical complications, you cannot move because there are cases.
Exactly.
Presumably, then you would inform the Spanish, the health authorities or whatever, and say, look, I cannot leave for the health of my child, my unborn child, etc.
Yes, you would argue the facts when you came back, but yes, you're allowed to be out for 12 consecutive months, for a year.
Right. Okay.
Rather than the 6 months because of pregnancy, childbirth, or serious illness.
Okay, super. The other thing is, who should you inform if you are going to be away? Because, as always, you might just flit off and do something, and then try and get back in and find yourself having an interesting conversation when you return. Who should you inform? Well,
you could try and inform the Foreigners Office, but they're going to take no notice, unfortunately. There isn't a system to inform anybody that you're actually going to be absent for that reason. You just have to prove that when you come back. There is not a system, because they wouldn't keep all those records. Joe Bloggs is absent because he's seriously ill. Felicity is absent because she's having a baby. They just don't keep that data.
Right. And if
you just have to deal with it when you come back.
That's interesting because obviously they seem to like to compile evidence, stuff on everything else. And if you were doing a 6 month contract or a 7 month or whatever, a contract abroad, you would think that they okay.
No, unfortunately not. There's not. In that way, it's all to do with, like I had somebody who they checked the passport, they saw they'd been absent, they didn't understand the absence for 5 consecutive years for withdrawal agreement, permanent resident, and I think I mentioned before I actually called the office when they were being denied, and luckily I got a friendly person, a Spanish civil servant, especially the police don't like a phone shoved in front of them saying, speak to my representative, she's going to tell you what the law is, but of course I did it very carefully. I put my Spanish hat on and did very carefully in the way, laid the blame at the government, not the office.
Right.
And the chap actually rang Madrid while I was on the line there, and yes, it was correct. And he gave them updated their card, their residency for permanent. They hadn't lost the right.
Yeah.
So this is the problem, isn't it? So imagine where would you send this email? In English, probably. Hello, I'm out the country. I'm not well. That's the first thing they're going to chuck out through. That's the other thing that a lot of expatriates don't understand, that the actual language is either one of the, is either Castilian or any of the dialects. We wouldn't call them dialects, regional,
exactly.
Regional languages. You can't You cannot use English. You can in some things like contract, then you'd have to have it translated if there was ever a court case. So please don't send emails in English. It would be like sending an email to the council in London somewhere in Chinese. It just doesn't, not. We can't be that entitled. Sorry, anyway, I'll stop my telling off.
That's quite all right. Here's the thing. This goes back to the whole thing with temporary to permanent, okay? Because you mentioned something about 5 years it automatically becomes permanent. Does somewhere in Madrid or wherever something go click then, and your residency automatically changes, or do you have to go?
No. Again, they're not going to be doing that, chasing them and going, oh, Joe Soap is now a permanent resident, let's click that. What it is when you go to the Foreigners Office to renew anything or update or duplicate, they need to go into the system and see when you first obtained your first residency documentation. And from that date, there's a lot of people in the situation where they've updated the TRE to the TRE when they were not permanent residents. So now they're permanent residents with a temporary TRE card, because when they changed it, because a lot of people were being told you must update, and of course there was no need to, and a lot of people dashed off to be correct as they thought, and then they'd say, they'd only had 3 years of temporary residence, so they updated to a temporary TRE. But in fact, in the meanwhile, they've become permanent residents. Most people under the withdrawal agreement this year will definitely be permanent residents, even if they got, 2020, just before the end of the transition period. We know now 2025, December, they'll be permanent residents. Well, most people had their residence. So I should think most withdrawal agreement residents will now be permanent residents.
That's interesting because
majority.
Well, okay, because a very good friend of mine went to change his license, etc., and was told to go because they couldn't find any his records that he had had a temporary residency, going back to 2004 to 2005, and then he was told by the town hall to go to Estrenados in Malaga, and when he got to Malaga, they said, you only had temporary residency in 2006, and therefore you have been living here illegally. You have to leave the country and reapply on Brexit rules.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. See, this is the problem, is the lack of knowledge of civil servants or police who are actually working under the laws that they should know. But as I've said before, Devil, if you do in this case that, put your coat over your seat, you're not going to lose your job. Why should you do any research or any updating or, That's the sad thing about the bureaucracy here. No, he was a resident from the date he got, then he would have got the green certificate and would be a permanent resident. Never mind not lose, absolutely wrong. You do not lose unless before the withdrawal agreement, he'd been out of Spain for longer than 2 consecutive years, or during since he became permanent, even if it was before the transition period, 5 consecutive years. So no, they were wrong, as so many of them are, unfortunately.
Yes, because that led to him phoning up people saying, "Can you lend me 30 grand so I can put it in the bank account to say that I can come and live in Spain again?" Even though
No, once you're permanent, you shouldn't be asked to show your income or anything like that. As long as they don't suspect that you somehow have fallen on bad times and you can no longer maintain yourself. But it's normally automatic. And people are finding renewing their TRE or they're getting just automatic renewal. Would change your padron if they change their address, not if they haven't. The EX23, the TASA that they pay, and the passport and photocopies of the passport main pages, and they're just being updated with no problem.
Okay, interesting. I
changed from eventually because I was like playing to be the person checking whether the border control, the police, everybody had an understanding of the green certificates, and I only changed my to my TRE maybe a year or so ago, and it was no problem. Just straight there. No Pedron necessary. Just simple.
Okay.
Done in a few minutes. So that's the case, and that's how it should be.
This is coming in. I do all my emails to utilities, etc., in Spanish and England. The problem is these days the number of responses come from bots. He thinks he's getting automatic chat bots coming up.
Yes, very difficult to get hold of anybody in Spain, isn't it? When you get a chat bot, it's very difficult. You just have to keep, it's like on the telephone when you're asking for a human being. You have to insist. Yes, it's rather, I would never expect an email to be something that you would use to, show, or if you're trying to prove something. Very difficult to get a response to emails. You do a little bit for a Mestrangeria. There is a part there where you can make a complaint or you can put forward actually on the website. That seems to work. But actually people sending emails to the town hall or anything, very difficult to get a response. Very difficult to get somebody on the phone to begin with and get a response when you do sit with somebody,
So
to sort out your query. So, yes, I can understand the gentleman's or lady's frustration.
Indeed, although it's sorry, Myra, go on.
Okay, so we say the options for permanent residents. If you're EU citizen, you've got the green certificate, you're not a UK national under the withdrawal agreement, you can be absent for 2 consecutive years.
Got a call coming in. Just a second, Myra. Got a call coming in, hopefully. So let's just see if this person says. Morning, caller. You're live on TRE. What's your question for Myra?
Hello, Giles. It's Sharon.
Sharon,
Hi.
how are you? We have been wondering where you have been.
Don't ask.
Okay, I won't ask. All right, okay.
Myra, can I ask a question about something totally different, or would you rather I didn't?
Myra, can you hear?
I don't mind if... Yes, I don't mind if Giles doesn't mind.
Go for it.
Yes. At Christmas time, regarding them charging for mail at Christmas time, 2 years ago, they charged us quite a lot of money, more than they should have been doing, for receiving gifts in the post. Last year, it seemed to have corrected itself, but this year, every year we're cat mad here, and every year some friends in England send us a cat calendar from Cat's Rescue. This year, they charged me €10 to receive that calendar. Is that okay? Should they be doing that? I don't think they should.
Oh, you mean through the post?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's quite a mess at the moment. Unfortunately, she can go and try and claim some of the money back, but because as being UK being non-EU now, the charges are coming in.
Right. So
she needs to know it could be customs charge. Very difficult to get anything now as you did in the old days before Brexit.
Let me just check that Sharon can hear this. So what Myra was saying just briefly was it's the customs union situation, because obviously the UK is no longer part of the EU.
No, that's right.
So that is one of the reasons. I will try and find out what's happening with our phone system and hopefully can speak to each other in the future, Sharon. But thanks for the call in. Okay.
Okay, no problem.
Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so we were saying the permanent residents, either EU 2 consecutive years, under the withdrawal agreement, the same is 5 consecutive years. Non-EU who are not under withdrawal agreement, they've just got the 6 months provided, 6 months a year, provided they do not exceed 10 months within 5 years. Of course, if it's for work reasons, it cannot exceed a total of 1 year. Let me go back to, I think, most of your listeners' withdrawal agreement, what I've been looking at, and there was no case law recently, and I've written about it. I mean, if you go to our website, I've checked, and I've written 15 informative articles already this year. So it's well worth going there. I mean, 15 were only February 14th, so 6 weeks. I've written, added 15 articles and quite a few in draft at the moment. So you get lots of information there. So I've also written about the information on your right to actually be absent and to return for a short visit, and your 5-year clock will start ticking again. And the same as for EU, the 2-year clock will start ticking again.
Okay.
All it says in the directives is that you can only lose residency by being absent for 5 consecutive years or 2 consecutive years. So there is nothing. So, and there's been a case that one of our members brought up, not with withdrawal agreement, but with non-EU, and the case was won because it just states that you can get the Foreigners Office say, well, you've been out, you just came in for 2 days. That's fine. You've broken up your absent period. That's important to know. It's 5 consecutive years, and the Article 15. 3, I think it is, actually states you can only use, under the withdrawal agreement, you can only lose your residence permit for absences for 5 consecutive years. Nothing about returns, nothing about how long you have to return for. So just returning for a short visit, and your clock will start ticking again. I think that's important.
Yes, indeed. Just to let you know, there seems to be a glitch on the phone system, so Myra can't hear, because Myra can't hear the callers coming in, so it's a bit of a 3-way split. So if you want to send a question, try via the WhatsApp, don't call it, but send me a message on +34 645 99 67 95. Myra, I've got around about 3 minutes, I think. So what can we go
We can maybe bring this up next time as well. A couple of things. Your residency applications for partners, spouses, or family members, there's 2 options now.
Right.
One, if you, under the withdrawal agreement, this is mainly for spouses, we're getting a lot of this. If you were married before the end of the transition period, you will use the withdrawal agreement. If you married your partner, unfortunately, the withdrawal agreement hasn't made any recommendations or suggestions. So if you've married after the withdrawal agreement, you have to use the Spanish domestic law. You can't use a withdrawal agreement to apply for residency for your partner, so that would be family reunification.
I think what we'll do, I think what we'll do with that one is, I think that one itself warrants a program in itself, because we have a lot of people who are in that situation, no?
And will be more and more, won't they? Because there's people that we're going to be marrying now, and forever. So, yes, unfortunately, it's not there. And the other thing we could bring on the next program is your rights when you've got multiple nationality statuses. This is one people don't know, that you can have your Irish UK, you can have the withdrawal agreements, you're protected, you can also have your EU, your certificate. People don't realise therefore you're entitled to 2 different residency documents. We can bring that up. You can imagine going to the police station now and asking for that. I've got my TRE, but I want, I've got my EU. I wish to keep it because I'm Irish, but I'm also UK. I've got dual, so I want the TRE as well. And you have the right to have those 2 documents.
Wonderful. If people want to find out, we'll deal with those in the next one, especially with both those subjects in the next one, because they're obviously worth it. But in the meantime, if people want to get in contact with you, where do they go?
They can Google Citizens Advice Spain, where they will find our website, and then also they'll have a link to go to our Facebook page, and hopefully that will take them to our crazy Facebook group.
Indeed, always entertaining.
90,000+.
Entertaining it as always. Myra, once again, happy Valentine's. There you go. We'll get the phone system sorted, and I'll speak to you in 2 weeks' time.
And for you, Giles, I hope you can keep the girls at arm's length.
Myra Azzopardi, thank you so much for your time.